Neil. What do you say, Carl? What do you say, Robert? Doing good, Dr. Neil. What do you say, Fisher's Foe? Hope you're well, Neil. What do you say, Moose? I see you, Haley Beth. Let's see here. Let's see if we can get her. Hey, thank you, Moose. Appreciate you, buddy.
MC Haley Dot is here.
Wonderful, wonderful. How are you, Haley?
I'm good. I'm here before Ash and Chad. Is that surprising?
What you been up to?
Working on just doing my diamond art as usual.
Yeah? Do you have one nearby?
A.S.H.
Do you have one nearby?
You have to wait till the Christmas one. You have to wait till Friday.
Okay.
But LG's here.
Yeah?
Natasha's here.
Natasha's here? Hey, Natasha. How are you doing? What is going on? Y'all, that is Natasha art right there. Right over my shoulder. She is the
1 minute. Where are the...
Doing good, Natasha.
Where are the boys? Come on, boy. Ash. A.S.H.
What's up, dude?
1 minute. Where's the... We need Chad.
You got Haley anxious here. Chad's got it. Chad's got Haley anxious. I think Haley's clock is on the same time as mine. I think she's 3 minutes
It's
ahead.
8:59.
So how you doing, man? What's up, Coleman? How you doing, Derek?
I'm doing good, dude.
Yeah? Feeling all right?
Yourself?
Good. You sound good.
No, it's
Look
without...
good. There he is. All right, y'all. If y'all could send Chad up here for me, I missed him there. I'd appreciate it. Anybody that can do that.
Sorry.
Oh, right on, Mr. Coleman. Derek, glad to hear it, man. Glad to hear it. I actually went to the post office today to mail last week's, and it's closed. There is no post office today.
Nope.
I don't pay attention, man. I just be working on stuff.
I didn't know until this morning, so
I knew.
I was like, oh.
I knew when I got there.
Now I can...
Hey, Mr. Revhard, have we got you?
Okay, I am...
What's up,
Stand by, Haley. How are you doing?
Jimmy.
Yes, I got you. Now we got you. I think it was taking a second to catch up.
Cool.
All right, Miss Haley.
All right.
1,
Caught up
2, 3. Sick 'em. Get 'em, Haley.
Hi. Welcome to the Ginn Project Show. My name is Haley Beth, owner of Haley Dot. I'm a diamond dot artist. I have a show every Friday night at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tonight's featured guest is Project Zer0. Take it away, Ginn.
All right. Thank you, Haley. That's awesome. I love it. Way to go, Haley. So Haley has a show on Friday nights at 6 o'clock Eastern Time, and it's a lot of fun. You can often catch a bunch of us there hanging out. She's a diamond dot artist. She's also the MC for this show, and she's been the longest serving mod, and she's awesome. She's also our friend. So thank you, Haley. How you doing, gentlemen?
That's true.
Good, dude.
Excellent. Yourself?
Well, I'm hanging in there. I'm all good. Since Ash is on top today, Ash, would you please tell us like what you got going on, when people can catch you on? You got all kinds of interesting stuff, man. Hit them with the details.
I've got a series of Muppets going on, which is fun. Oil paintings. So those have been a lot of fun to do lately. So I've been on an oil painting kick. And of course, you can catch me live 10 o'clock Pacific. And that would be midnight Eastern. We're getting to learn this now. And that's tonight on Tuesday. Tonight on Tuesday. For possible game night. We're not sure yet. If not, I'll be painting. And then Wednesday, of course, I hang out with the mighty Ginn, and we work whenever Ginn feels like getting in. From 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning on the eastern side.
Yes.
And then same thing with Friday. And Saturday is, of course, story night with me and possibly Eve. We're working that out. And that's from 10 o'clock to midnight, maybe? Depending. Depends. Depends on how we're rolling. So, yeah. And then, of course, I have the A.S.H. Man's Basic Art Show tomorrow at 4 o'clock Pacific time. So that'll be 6 o'clock Eastern. So, yeah. And that'll be an hour of hanging out, watching me paint, and then an hour of people coming up.
And how long do we have that we're only 2 hours apart?
We have until
all winter?
What, spring?
All winter? It's just 2 hours for the winter.
Yeah.
We're 3 hours apart in the summer. So if you fly there in the wintertime, it's a shorter flight, y'all. True story.
Arizona's so confusing. Actually, the rest of you are. I'm just trying to play catch up.
Yeah. It's a lot of moving parts.
So,
yeah.
So, Laura, in 6 months, I'll have that dialed in, and it'll be time to change it again. It'll be back to 3 hours.
It'll go back to chaos.
Yep.
So
that's how all the clocks work. You change them. And by the time you get around to changing them, time to change them back.
Yeah.
Yes. Sweet. He also has a podcast, ladies and gentlemen, called Gentile Poverty. He also has a website, ashmansbasicartstore.com, which reminds me, we're going to go ahead and do the content disclosures.
That would be a good idea.
All right. There we go. So, Ashman's on tomorrow night. Go check him out. He's always doing something cool. And he's the co-host. And Thursday night, you can catch him on the Lower Orbit Lounge. We'll see what happens with that. There's Chad Revart. What's up, dude?
Where?
I'm always backwards. What up?
How you doing?
What have you got going on to tell the people about?
Man, I've been making sawdust again. If you guys haven't caught me live, it's because, well, you haven't caught me live. So, yeah, we've been getting in quite a bit of work the last few days. You want to see it? You want to see it?
Yes. And welcome to Project Zero, who's in the house. He's the featured guest tonight.
What up, Project Zero? Hey,
Kira,
this camera being flipped is going to mess me up altogether.
Nice.
I'm going to try. What's up, Kira?
Man, you've made some progress.
Here we are so far. We're making more tentacles. We're going to put some more chain in there, I've decided. That's just not enough. So, for you guys who don't know, this was a piece of firewood. Oh, yeah, here's a really cool part of it, too. Man, I should have turned my other light on. No, never mind. Anyway, so yeah, been working on this. I've got like 7 pieces all going, but this is the one I've been working on the last few days here. And yeah, this is a piece of firewood. And I was working on some stuff here on my farm, and I used a rusty pipe wrench. Hey, there's some more light. Let there be light. So yeah, I put this rusty pipe wrench down and kind of forgot about it. You know, it's a farm, stuff like that happens. And several weeks later, I realized it was over there in this work area, and I ironed the pipe wrench with the rain and such. I started energizing this entire piece. It came out really, really cool. If I can figure out my directions here.
So what he was saying was he
I really
left the
like
pipe wrench
this
on that
angle.
log,
You see it?
and the iron leached into the wood and combined with the tannins in the wood, and that's why you have that black coloring. It was glitching a little bit, man, so I was just
Thank you.
filling in the blanks.
Oh, was it?
Just a little bit. You're good now. You're good
So
now.
yeah,
That's
that's
dope.
what I've been working on the last few days.
You've been thinking of a name for it?
Not yet. I'm sure it'll tell
Heard
me
that.
eventually. You got a name for it?
Usually, no, just usually it starts barking a name out at you at some point. I just wondered if we were there yet. Hey, I've heard of that band.
Almost.
I noticed you're wearing
Almost.
I noticed that you're wearing a shirt that says "Frail" on it. And I have this really good friend of mine.
Yeah.
I mean, we're pretty tight, I think. And he used to be the lead singer of that band.
Is that
Are you
so?
familiar with him?
You don't say. I'm not sure. I don't know. You know, I've met a lot of people, so I'm not sure.
He used to have long dreads. He liked to wear red. You can catch a
Oh,
picture of
that
him if you
dude.
look in
Yeah,
my
yeah,
bio.
yeah.
If you look in my bio and just go back not very far, you'll find a picture of that guy. He looks eerily familiar. I can't put my finger on it. Ash, are you?
Yeah?
Something seemed
I
weird.
think so
something,
too. Something's off.
Something seemed off
I don't
here.
know. Yeah. Yeah.
It's almost like there's symbology going
A
on.
weird connection there. Yeah, you know, you would even think that back in those days, names of bands might have actually meant something pretty important too. I don't know.
And
Maybe it's crazy.
for all you Boondock Saints
That guy had a
fans,
transfer- No,
symbolism
Kira, he
is
did
the
not.
word he was looking for. Yes, Kara, I believe that he was considering getting a trampoline for that goat, but I don't know that he ever did get the goat. Hey, Grat. So, you want to tell us about your shirt at all?
Yeah, this is a really, really old hoodie, and I just happened to wear it today. I didn't even realize it until you mentioned it. It's funny. A lot of you guys
too,
ask a
Project
lot about my band stuff, and this might be a not so subtle hint. Chip said
Missouri.
you can wear the gear, you know, when it's been like 100 years. It's not like we're wearing your own. Yeah. Project Zero. So yeah, I'm back to carving. So make sure you got your notifications and stuff like that on, and because here pretty soon we're gonna be carving on guitar. But I just kind of had to
Oh, no.
knock the rust off, knock the cobwebs off,
scary.
and then we're gonna start working on guitar.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
Laura.
little bit.
Hey, Heather. How's it going? Right on.
Totally valid.
All right. We're going to shrink you and put you back over in the corner. You seem more comfortable over there. So, y'all, big giant hint. If you're curious about some Chad Rev Art music back in the day, he's got a shirt on from a band he was the lead singer of. So, you know, I don't know how to make it any more subtle than that. Put Missouri, when you type
Right.
it in, put Missouri
Funny.
behind it. Put Missouri behind it. So, y'all, we got Project Zero on tonight, and I'm excited about
help.
this. And maybe we can have a short little conversation about all the different little ways. And it's hard, you couldn't do it in a short conversation, but Project Zero is the first paintings that my wife and I actually got for ourselves. He finished that West Borland painting on the show last time, if you remember, Chad, and signed it. And it was a fantastic interview. I mean, it really was one of the best interviews we had. Unfortunately, we weren't able to download it from TikTok. It was kind of like the thing that happened with Monique. Except Project Zer0, it just for whatever reason we weren't able to download it. So all of this time we've had his interview, but we never were able to show anybody. So I'm really excited to have him back on here. He's a really conscientious guy. He's a phenomenal artist, but he is much like S.A. Artistries or Severed or Chad or Ash. They're humanitarians. And Project Zer0 is an amazing advocate as well. So I have a lot of respect for the guy. I really appreciate him being willing to come back on. I'm excited to hear about what he's been doing lately, or over the last year or so. Man, Chad, it's probably been closer to 2 years since we had. He was towards the beginning of when we first started.
OG.
He is an OG, like Eve's Artistry. She's an OG too, and you can get your acrylic and oil painting needs met at evesartistry.com. Can't you, Ash?
Yes, you can get all your acrylic and oil painting needs at evesartistry.com. Landscapes and abstracts at evesartistry.com.
That's evesartistry.com. How you doing, Eve? We love you, lady. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Except for Chad. Chad don't love you. Me and Ash love you, but Chad don't. And he's glitching, so he can't defend himself. So but here's the cool thing, man. Art is this thing that reaches out, whether it's music or whatever medium it is, right? Look at the reactions Ashman has got from his crocheted piece from our friend My Spot. You know what I mean? Chad has got art of all different mediums that he's got and people have sent, and it's this thing that connects us, right? Two people from two totally different worlds can be standing and looking at a painting and connect, make some sort of there's some sort of ground that is in agreement, no matter what the difference is, no matter what all that other stuff is. Or someone could listen to a song and feel connected to it. And it doesn't necessarily matter your background. So to me, one of the reasons I would make the argument that art is so important is that it helps make connections. There's a lot of other reasons that art is important, but for me, just observationally, art is a way that we all connect. I build guitars. All of the people that I collaborate with are artists that are going to be putting art on guitars, right? So the commonality is the art, is the pursuit of creating something. And then you start combining those things, those talents, and you start building communities. And that's what Project Zer0 is about too. That guy is a community builder. There's a whole, he's a vibe, man. Project Zer0 is a whole vibe. And he is one of S.A. Artistry's favorites. And if that tells you anything, he must be pretty good. So I feel like that we have lots of other connections because we know each other and we talk and stuff. But do you have any thoughts on that? Just the idea of art as a connector, art as a way of. Now I know that it also can make a point sometimes. It can be counterculture. It can go against things. It can push back. But just on the making connections on a human level. Any thoughts on art in your life doing that? Either one.
I'm going to quote Kira here. I'm looking for it in the chat. It's so much. I think that's a very good way to do that. I think that when somebody sees a piece of art that they must have in their clutches, There's a deep-seated reason for that. I think it goes beyond just cool imagery.
Well, you're an
There's
artist that you. I'm sorry, Ash. I didn't mean to step on.
I was
you.
just going to say there's a lot of ourselves that goes into the art. So when you create something and you have a connection with somebody, it becomes very personal, and it becomes some wonderful energy between the two, that you've created something that somebody likes so much. That means they like a part of you, and that means there's a
Yes.
connection within a part of them. So it becomes much more.
Right on. Well, I know that both of you, for example, use a lot of, I said symbology because I just thought it was funny, symbolism in your art. Um, Chad, especially the series of carvings that you've been working on, right? Are a social commentary on how women have been treated
Yeah.
since the beginning of time. And it's strange that in the world that we live in, you specifically, an old white dude, or sort of white dude, you're Cherokee as well,
Yeah.
and you were born into a cult. So you come from all these different worlds, right? You're perceived as an old white guy. You're actually part Cherokee. You actually were born into some cultist type stuff, and so you've had a whole lot of experiences. And knowing you, I would argue that all of those experiences influence your art.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I would say, especially in my music career. I mean, it definitely does it now, but I think I've honed in a different way of utilizing. I think because like when you're young and less experienced, you tend to take big wide swaths, And I think as you start to learn how people react depending on what you're trying to give to them or lend to them, you start with time kind of learn how to focus that in. But yeah, most definitely, all the experiences I had growing up were definitely all over my music, and now as well. It's just done to my
He
religion
froze on me,
plays.
y'all. Yeah, pretty bad. Yeah.
What?
Did he freeze for you, Ash? There he
Oh
is.
yeah,
He's moving
yeah,
again.
he's back.
He's back. Okay. I think we caught most of that, my man. I think we caught most of that. You personally perceive Chad as an artistic duck. I personally perceive Chad as an artistic duck. Hey, Philly Art Dad, thanks for coming in here. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Ashman, do you have any thoughts on the said topic that you further care to share? Just the idea of art and how it connects us.
Well, it's funny because we all see something different in the artwork, right? It's always different through somebody else's eyes. Like some people see my work and they just see something kind of disturbing about Mickey Mouse, and they don't understand what I'm trying to put across, which is the industries and how they handle our collective love of said item, like Mickey Mouse, Disney, or anything like that. They monetize it and somewhat
Commodify it.
destroy it and the beauty of it. And I do that with the Muppets as well. And it's a way of communicating how I feel about what they've done with my childhood or my perceived childhood, because it was always about money. But as you get older, you start to understand things more. And I think that's the thing about artists. As we get older, we start expressing in different ways. And I think it's really beautiful to watch somebody like Chad carving, and even in that short period of time, you could see the progression of how much more he's getting out of it. Or like your guitar work, how much tighter everything's getting and how much more precise and beautiful and the time you take on it. And I feel like that's what I try and put into mine, is more of myself than I ever have. Every piece of artwork is a little more of me than it was last time. And I hope to keep progressing that way. And I think that's a lot of us, right? We're trying to
Yes.
excel. We're trying to exceed what we were yesterday, because let's not get too comfortable.
Well, I see the heat that you take for doing like Muppet characters or Disney characters, and you're kind of well known for messing them up a little bit. And I know you well enough to know that, and you can correct me here publicly, but I know you well enough to know that on some level it's a commentary, right?
Yes.
And you just described, but and whether it's the monetization or commodification of art, and the irony that always strikes me, and I was thinking about this today as part of why I wanted to talk about this, is the people that are angry at you about doing a drawing of Bert and Ernie stitched together, or of whatever like thing. The irony is they're offended because it hurts their sense of whatever their perception of that character is.
Oh, yeah.
But they're not offended by the commodification of it or the monetization of it.
No.
Or all the shitty things that are done in courtrooms in the name of it.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk about any of that, but somehow they're
No.
going to put on their armor and defend Bert from you. It's a trip, man. It really. It's like the dude is actually advocating for you.
Yeah, I'm trying.
So I guess there's that gets us back to Project Zero. Project Zero wears a mask. There's a nuance in what he does that I think is probably lost on a whole lot of people, right? And you men are both the comprehensive deal. You're not just artists. Chad's a father, a husband, a son. He's got a farm to run. He's got animals that he takes care of and he cares about. Even Gary, even the damn goat. So there's this human component that comes from us and goes into the artwork. I've seen Gary literally try to chew on Chad's sculptures as he's working, right? So he's defending from the goat while he's carving the damn. And you can't help but have that be a part of your energy or whatever that goes into that piece, right? And I see it in yours too, Ash. Sometimes you won't even know what you're going to be working on. You and Chad are both like that, and then you just start working. And that is so strange to me because I've got to kind of have a plan because there's an end product, right? So where I find places to veer off the path are a lot different. Like if somebody wants a table or I'm building a table, we know that the end product is going to be a table. You all start a painting or a project and you literally have no idea what it's going to be. So I can't imagine that whatever you come up with isn't somehow connected to who you are.
Oh yeah.
Did that make any sense?
Yeah,
100%.
it made total sense.
Yeah.
Right on. Well,
Yeah.
I would say that that is an apt description of the guy we're going to have on tonight too. He is the art that he creates in a lot of ways. I understand there's a balance, and he'll be here. He can correct me on that. But I got a lot of respect for this guy. I think y'all are going to really enjoy this one. And TikTok, get your things lined up. Ezra, make sure everything is in order because we're about to bring him up, and we want to make sure that we get the recording this time. And I am not able to screen record on TikTok. So, any rate, TikTok, we're counting on you. If the mods down there wouldn't mind, anybody, thank you, gentlemen. I think that could be a whole show just right there, that conversation. But if the mods don't mind, please send up Project Zero. He just He's in the chat there. I might be able to grab him my dang self here. It won't let me send him a guest thing. You might have to request. You might have the settings on your account to where you have to request Project Zer0. There we go. Johnny Ray sent you an invite. There we go. So first we're going to get a mic check on you, man. Can we hear you?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. How are you, Zer0?
I'm well. Can you guys see me?
We don't have your camera. We just have a picture of you right now, but we can hear you loud and clear.
How do I change that? Let's see.
You should be able to hit your screen, your box, and probably there you go. Now we're gonna expand your. Oh, and he does have a new mask. She said your new mask was dope, man. She said your new mask was dope. Welcome to the show, man. I'm so glad to have you on again. Dude, you are absolutely phenomenal. Ashman is an addition since you were on the last time. I'm not sure if you're familiar with our good friend Ashman, but he is also an incredibly accomplished, amazing artist. Man, it's always bothered me that your interview we weren't able to download, and it really contains some good content. And you are about some dope art, of course, but you're another guy that uses your art for a bigger picture, I believe. And we'll let you speak on that. But just for those that don't know you, I'm going to let Ash and Chad give a quick hello to you. And then for those that don't know you, maybe you'll tell us a little bit about just the basics, who you are and that kind of thing, just to get us started. So Ash, man, I know that you and Chad both have some welcoming words for our friend Project Zer0. So
how you doing, man? Welcome in. That's a great mask, by the way. I was just going through your profile and checking out everything, and amazing work.
Thank you.
Fantastic stuff. Amazing content. If anybody hasn't gone over there and checked out his content, it's spectacular, man. And I'm just welcome in, dude.
Much appreciated. Thank you, guys. Hey, Chad.
Dude, welcome back, Zer0, man. It's good to see you, homie.
Likewise.
It's been a minute. I am very much looking forward to seeing what you're cooking up right now. Guys, as Ginn said earlier, Zer0 was one of the first through the door. He's OG, and I'm going to tell you honestly, I'm not just gassing up Zer0 here, but he's a whole vibe, and it's hard to find that. And one of my favorite things when I'm looking at different artists, whether it's a band or a musician or a painter, when they bring an entire vibe and they kind of envelop you, it's there is something special about that. So guys, kick your feet up, because I'm sure you're going to very, very much enjoy this. Dude, Zer0, I'm going to shut up. Let's get to the show, because I'm glad you're back, homie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for coming back.
Absolutely. It's an honor to be here with you guys. Thank you guys for having me back. I'll introduce myself briefly. My name is Zer0. I run Project Zer0 Art. What is Project Zer0 Art? It's a art project. Initially in the beginning, I even early on, I envisioned doing more than just kind of canvas paintings. So rather than calling it, paintings by Zer0 or something like that, in my head, I saw kind of a couple different things that I wanted to try. So I just kind of went with Project Zer0, and now I'm doing murals and a bunch of different things that window paintings and things that definitely fit the category of projects instead of just paintings. I'm a Mexican artist, born in originally from Guanajuato, Mexico. I am a Latino artist, and my face is probably the easiest way to explain my appearance is it's a bit of performance art. It's a bit of identity and expression. I choose to kind of put my art on me in a way, I paint like clothing, so I also have like jackets and stuff like that. But this is
Hold it up,
essentially.
man. Hold that up, man. Let them see for sure.
I'm glad you're still doing those.
Thank you.
Oh man, that's dope.
It's the mask is kind of an extension of that. Just kind of every time I play an RPG or something, I kind of create these like weird vampire-like characters, and I'm a goth kid, so it fits. That and the kind of art that I make, it definitely kind of goes along with that. But the other kind of side to that coin is that as a Latino artist, typically Latino art and Latino artists is presented in a very kind of traditional way, where normally you see Latino artists kind of doing the whole suit and tie thing, or if it's not that, it's kind of pandering to like certain stereotypes of what a Latino artist looks like. It's generally not this, but there is quite a few of people like me that are Hispanic, that are Mexican, that are Latino, even culture and race aside, that are different, and they express that. So that's kind of a part of that is me kind of showing this is not the typical way that Latino art is presented, but I live in Texas. I am a Mexican in Texas, and I try to make sure that whenever I am at Latino events or any type of art events, that I'm also representing the people like me, not just skin color wise, but like stylistically, aesthetically, and vibe wise. I am a full-time artist here in Arlington, Texas. I do paintings on canvas. Lately, I've been doing this last 2 years. Really, I kind of pivoted more towards murals. So I've been doing more kind of mural work, signage work, and I also surprisingly do holiday windows. So, which is, since it's November, there's quite a bit of that going on right now. So you might see this painting stuff like this around local businesses. Some really cheerful, jovial type stuff.
That's awesome.
And for whatever reason, they hire your little weird friend to do that. It makes sense during October for Halloween. Totally makes sense for Christmas. Hey man, I just roll with it, But yeah, my artwork, I guess the style I would consider it to be dark surrealism. Most of my work is very surreal in nature. I don't really typically paint things that exist. I kind of like just having, I like to draw. I like to kind of add detail. I like, even with my face, like this one, I actually made myself out of clay. And even with the mask, I couldn't resist like getting in there and kind of getting all these like different crevices and, tears and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the kind of style of art that I make, is dark surrealism. Yeah.
Well, look, you were the person. No kidding, true story. Project Zer0 was doing a multi-stream one time. He was streaming. If I'm not mistaken, it was the Book of Faces. I think Insta and TikTok. He was streaming one time, and I managed to get some art during that process of his, and it is absolutely amazing. Like, it's the same as always, right? We talk about if you get to see it in person versus seeing it on these cameras, there's a whole another step of excellence in there. And I'll always have a soft spot for Zer0 because, like I said, it was the very first paintings that we've bought paintings for other people, but we never bought anything for ourselves. So Project Zer0 was the first one that inspired us to do that, and they're still hanging here in the shop. And of course, the West Borland's always hanging behind, and Prince and La Rosa have started all of the ones that are going to be on the ceiling. So it's for me personally, there's this connection there. Like I'll always be a Zer0 fan
Thank you
because
so much.
like I have that experience. But even if I didn't have your artwork, Zer0, even if I didn't have any of your artwork here, I would still be a fan. And one of the
Thank you so much.
reasons why I would be a fan, it isn't just that your work is so good, man, is that there is a man behind the work. There is a guy that cares about his community. You just described a lot of what you do is advocacy, indirect and direct advocacy for your Mexican heritage, your Latino culture, you know what I mean? Your brothers and sisters from all walks of life. And that's another reason why I say you're a vibe, because my experience with Zer0 is if you're a human being that can treat another human being with respect, then there's an opportunity that we could be cool. Is that
Absolutely. 100%.
so? I think that it takes some courage to take the approach that you take. As you mentioned, you didn't take the easy way out and do the easy art, right? The cash art.
Right.
You are a vibe, man. Can you tell us? Can you tell us a little bit about why? Why is it that you are so dedicated to? You go that extra mile, man. You just do. You go that extra mile for your community, for art itself, which to me benefits the art community. The fact that you go out of your way to be who you are lifts us all up, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. Well, to me, I think it's a part of it is the people that I kind of grew up with and the people that kind of inspired me. I wear a mask, and a part of that is I grew up with seeing some very eccentric artists. Not even just like musicians, just people that were unapologetically themselves. And usually they happen to kind of lean towards the weirder alternative side. But
Right.
I always liked that. And people like Wes Borland, the painting that you have. I'm honored to have started your personal painting collection, by the way, Ginn.
Did
But
you
yeah,
see
people like
what you
Wes Borland.
started?
He started
But,
all of it. Yeah.
Definitely. But yeah, people like Wes Borland. That why was Wes dressed like that while he was playing? There's absolutely no reason for him to do that. But you do that because you take it upon yourself to do that. Maybe like you feel more comfortable in this skin than you do in your own, and I think that speaks to some people. Or maybe you want to be something bigger, greater, different than what you are. So people like Joey Jordison, which by the way I'm still working on that gigantic Joey painting back here. I did a
Dude.
and that's why the walls are empty, but they're all kind of here next to me. So maybe as I'm talking, I can kind of just pull some stuff out and show you guys real quick. The empty
Absolutely.
walls.
Sure.
I got
Just
an asylum.
remember, Zer0, please remember this is your show, so show them for as long as you want. There is no hurry right now. Like, take your
Appreciate it.
time
Thank
and
you
make
so
sure, like that's one of the reasons for doing this is so that folks like you have time to actually show their art and
I
talk
really
about it.
appreciate that.
So please don't feel rushed. It is your show. We're here to support you.
Thank you so much, guys. So the kind of expression of kind of individuality, and everybody's kind of unique in their own way, and I fully want to encourage people to be themselves, even if I'm a dark artist. A lot of my work is very kind of dark, and I think people kind of misinterpret that as kind of thinking that in my mind, I guess the way I see it is like kind of getting a lot of that out on canvas and finding a creative thing to do with it, as opposed to just kind of letting it consume you. I know it probably looks like it consumed me, but it's kind of something that I'm purging it out on canvas, I suppose. But yeah, kind of finding your own voice, kind of the way you choose to present yourself. You know, it's completely up to you. You know, the way the clothes you wear, the way you choose to do your facial hair, the way you choose to cut your hair. You could go bleach blonde tomorrow, or you know, you could paint your hair red if you wanted to. It might not go so well at work, but you know, you do have that, you maintain that sense of individuality, and a lot of people choose not to really do much with it. For me, this is the most comfortable way for me to speak to people. A lot of my artwork does kind of touch on topics that, to me, is kind of akin to letting you read my diary. So this is the most comfortable way for me to kind of express it. Also, you know, a lot of my work does kind of touch on, to an extent, I like to document what I'm living through. I think artists have done that for a long, long time. It's kind of it's in our history, to kind of document the stuff that's going on. I just happen to be born in a strange time, so I have to document things as I see them. And I guess that's a good segue into kind of showing you one of my most recent paintings, which is this guy right here.
That's awesome.
Yo.
I don't know if it's mirrored or if I can fix that, but his visor says "okay," and his chest
like
piece
it.
says. So this is kind of one of the more recent ones.
Wow, man.
I don't mind explaining what the work means. Especially lately, I try to be a little bit more kind of deliberate and leave less room for misinterpretation. Hopefully, that's pretty kind of clear. What I'm kind of trying to say there. But there's always going to be that kind of small subsection of people that kind of need it maybe a little bit more spelt out for them, and you know, that's when it comes to that, I don't mind explaining. But yeah.
That piece is powerful, man. And let me say this, and I hope I don't misspeak here. You're a man that I have a lot of respect for, and you, from this is just my observation. I'm not speaking for Ash or Chad or anybody else. This is just my observation. Since we had veterans today, and I'm a veteran, I got some thoughts on that particular issue. It struck me the last time that we spoke, man, that part of what is going on is that you are a man that lives in a culture that enjoys all of the benefits of your culture, right, and gives zero respect to that same culture that it draws benefits from. It's a parasitic relationship, in my view. I'm talking about culturally.
I agree.
And I think that you are so important because you can help break that. And I would like to see that broken.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a part of kind of what my goal is. My goal is, as an artist and kind of as an individual, as a person, is to, you know, that's kind of when I do a lot of the Latino events, there's a lot of kind of kind of stereotyping and kind of putting a certain image of Latino and Mexican culture at the forefront. And it's not so much that I want people to think like, hey, this is what Latinos look like. It isn't. This is what Zer0 looks like. There are others like me, but it's by no means the majority of you know, Hispanic or Mexican representation. But I think this is kind of a way to, you know, introducing myself to people this way and letting them know that I'm a Mexican artist, that I'm a Latino artist. Hopefully they walk away from that interaction thinking like, you know what, I don't think I've ever seen a Mexican artist that looked like that presented himself that way, or that kind of, you know, I don't want to say kind of painted those things, because that's not necessarily true. But hopefully they walk away with if somebody does not have, you know, is not immediately kind of around a lot of Hispanic people and maybe has a certain image or a certain perception or stereotype of what Latinos and Hispanics and Mexicans are. Hopefully interacting with Zer0 at art events and things like that. Hopefully that gets them to walk away thinking, you know what, I thought they were all like this, and clearly this one person, at least one of these people is totally different. So maybe it's not just A or B, you know what I mean? Maybe there's kind of this wide spectrum, just like there is for every race, just like there is for every, all men aren't the same, all women aren't the same. I wouldn't, generalize for other races, Asian people, people of color, minorities. I wouldn't kind of all categorize them as like they're all like this. You know what I mean? Like there's a wide range of different
There's a spectrum of each. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course. And with my art, I kind of, try to tackle a few different things. Some of them are kind of personal to just me, just kind of, like I said, taking pages out of my diary. Like, for example, there's this painting over here. Like I said, I kind of have them off to the side. There's this painting right here. It's called Lost Due to Incompetence. And
I love it.
this is one of my favorite paintings. It is about my anxiety. Just to kind of put it plainly, it is kind of about how I perceive my anxiety, and kind of it's a little bit of my kind of personal journey with it, I suppose. There's a lot kind of in here, a lot of symbolism and a lot of kind of things that, at first I thought maybe they only made sense to me, but the more I kind of show that to people, and when I tell them it's about my anxiety, I think for a lot of other people with anxiety, it clicks for them, and they're like, I get it. Me thinking I have to explain to them what the dots mean, most of the time they actually get it pretty spot on. Maybe it's because kind of similar minds think alike, but yeah, going back to the kind of, I want to show you this other one too, since it is Veterans Day. I do want to show you this one. It's probably going to be super hard to see because of the lighting in the room, but this one is called The American Nightmare. It is a Statue of Liberty, obviously. And this one, I do kind of want to take a second to kind of explain what this is about, because I think there's a misconception sometimes where people think that what I'm doing is just simply criticizing the country that I'm living in. But what I'm trying to do, and it's not necessarily culture specific, but I think that even when we were children, I think we were kind of sold the American dream. We were told that if we worked really hard and we just, you just got to work hard, man. Everything will be fine. Everything will be good. You'll live a good life. Nobody really ever told us that we had to work multiple jobs. Nobody told us that, we were told, go to school, get this degree. It doesn't matter what degree, just, a degree. And it's not quite like that. It might have been that way. It might have been that way. And for me personally, like I said, as a Mexican artist, there's this kind of notion for people kind of back in Mexico that if you go to America, it'll automatically just be, it's going to be so much easier because you're in America. You know what I mean? And It's the land of opportunity. It's the land of the dollar bill. And you're just kind of by default going to be in a way better position. When the reality is that even American citizens here, you can be born here and you can still be struggling. And that's kind of, it's not necessarily just me criticizing America, because I know a lot of people, there have been some criticisms like that where they're just like, well, that's just kind of you like shitting on, on the US or this and that. And it's not really about that. And the reason why I kind of segued that into the whole Veterans Day thing, which happy Veterans Day, by the way, to those who serve. The reason I bring it up is because I personally know quite a few veterans that are also not happy with the state of things. Maybe they also served and were disillusioned by either the service or the treatment after the service. You can find many
Streamer
Absolutely.
comedy.
You can
I know
find,
a guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I know
Well,
quite
I
a
bet
few,
you do,
know?
don't you?
Yeah,
I know a
definitely.
guy.
And I think it's great because I think to a lot of people they have this misconception. There's always this kind of perception of what you think things are. And just like I try to fight, stereotypes and generalizations about both Latino artists and just kind of Mexicans, Hispanic people as a whole, I think there's also kind of this perception of the military, perception of kind of service and veterans. It's funny because me and my girl were just talking about that. That typically, whenever people hear the word veteran, they think of somebody that's much older. But realistically, there's a lot of much younger veterans. People that are in their late 20s as opposed to let's say their late 50s. I think if you go to like a Veterans Day parade or something, you're kind of expecting to see what I would say is kind of like Vietnam War vets. Same thing with kind of veterans who served in combat. A lot of times people think they're going to be missing a limb or they're going to be and a lot of the times it's not like that. So there's that perception of things. And as with the cultural thing, I do feel like it is important for me as a Mexican here, that came from Mexico. I wasn't born here, so I come from Mexico. So I feel like I would be kind of spitting on my ancestors' graves to kind of get here and be the person that's like, well, I don't care about those people anymore. You know what I mean? Like I'm here, things are good for me, and that's all that matters. And people back home or other brown people, like they can. It's not my problem. I know plenty of people that are like that. I know plenty of people that do think that way and do have that mindsets. And generally, I tend to just kind of distance myself from them, just as a whole,
Well,
just not feeling the vibe.
I understand. Let me say this, Zer0. I don't think there's anything more patriotic than someone who can levy a critique at their nation. That's the point. That's what makes America
Word.
America is you are allowed to criticize the government. That's the fucking point.
Agreed. And I think that's
So
the way I see it.
I'm sorry. Go ahead,
That
man. I'm sorry.
the way that I kind of see it to an extent is this is a form of peaceful protest to me. And you may not agree with what I'm protesting. You may not, agree with my point or anything like that. But to me, this is an extension of the First Amendment, which is obviously protected. I'm not painting anything violent. I'm not painting anything that's grotesque. I mean, well, that's kind of debatable, but not in the context of, of protest. Some of it might be more on the dark art side, but I'm using this is just kind of me expressing my voice, and it's a form of peaceful protest. I've also kind of done I've done an art protest a few years ago, where I gathered a bunch of local artists here in downtown Fort Worth to just kind of paint signs for people, to paint different protest signs and to peacefully protest. Because like I said, that's an important kind of distinction, for me at least as an artist, that people kind of recognize that you can paint something and you don't necessarily have to like it. There's a lot of artwork that I personally see that I don't agree with, but I do think it's good art. I do think that it's just because, like, for example, I might see a painting of a president that I don't particularly like. It doesn't stop it from being a good portrait. It doesn't stop it from being art that somebody had some type of meaning or message that they had across. I may not agree with the message, but I do agree with the fact that you have that right to express yourself, and you have that right and that skill to express it.
Yes.
You don't have to agree with the content to respect the skill.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely.
Right. You don't have to like a particular song to appreciate that it's well done. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, well, I am suspicious of government I'm suspicious of corporate entities because I've had 54 years of experience with them. I am suspicious of religious folks, or religion, let's say, and I am suspicious of uber patriotism. All of those things can be taken to horrific extremes. Um,
Absolutely.
so the conversation earlier about people saying that you were shitting on a country that you live in. I think the people that would argue that everybody's supposed to be doing the same thing are the ones that are shitting on the concept. Not the ones who are out there doing their thing. And especially someone like you, because as you said, you're not you didn't even portray that agent in a bad light.
Right.
You just it is what it is. And that is bad enough
Some people are
commentary.
very
And that's the thing.
clear.
That's where I was going with that is if you simply draw a picture of a particular person that is recognizable and that evokes a reaction that is that strong, then you're on the right shit, my friend.
All right, thank you. Much appreciated.
You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of different ways. It's backwards. Kill your
Yeah, it says kill your insecurities. Let me see if I can-
insecurities. Right on.
It is a shirt
Right
by
on.
one of my local artist friends here, Aaron Taylor Art. It's one of his designs. It says "Kill Your Insecurity." It's one of my favorite shirts.
That's great. That's great, man. I love it. But
Thank
I
you.
so part of the reason that I appreciate what you do, Zer0, is at least hopefully, right? Like Chad does art that is often a commentary on how women have been treated. Now you may
Right.
notice Chad is a man.
Right.
And I've heard people say things like, well, why would, how could he know anything, right? Like he's a dude. How would he be able to advocate for women's rights? Well,
Right.
I think that's just as silly, right? Well, he is also a husband. He is also the father of a little girl. He is also, if he wasn't married and if he didn't have a little girl, he is a human being. He could
Absolutely.
still have something to say about that topic. So I think you get fire from both sides most likely, right? Because there are women that would be upset at Chad because they don't feel like him as a man has the right to make any point about women at all whatsoever. And then there's
Right.
the other women that are like, thank you so much for saying something, Chad. Which one is he supposed to listen to? Right?
Right,
He's got to be
absolutely.
who he is and do what he does. And I would argue the same applies to you, and the same applies to Ashman. Ashman got hate mail recently for simply doing a picture that put Bert and Ernie sewed together.
Right. I was
People
hearing
were
you guys
freaking
talk
out.
about that.
It's an imaginary characters. They're mad
Yeah.
that Ashman manipulated an imaginary character owned by a corporation. An imaginary character owned by a corporation pissed somebody off. Somebody,
Yeah.
plural.
Definitely, it's an interesting thing because people like I said, it kind of comes down to that perception thing again, and that's a topic that I don't always directly kind of tackle because perception is such a abstract concept, but
True.
but like just to segue real quick, here's this painting. I don't know if you guys had seen this one before.
Ooh,
This
haven't.
is this is a painting of Perseus holding the head of Medusa. And Perseus isn't really looking all that human. But part of this is also, again, the kind of myth of Medusa and Perseus. Perseus is kind of seen as the hero, but if you're familiar with Greek mythology, Medusa was definitely the victim there. The victim of quite some stuff, and I think it's important to me at least. I think it's important that I'm a male. I am a cis male. I identify as the gender I was born in. However, I have a mother that is a woman. I have I have my girlfriend. I have friends that are female. I have aunts. There's a lot of women around me. I was raised by a lot of women, and it's just one of those things where I think a lot of the time, especially for women, their voices are kind of just, almost like a second rate type of thing to a lot of men, to be quite frank.
Yes.
And to me, it's important that as a man, I don't contribute to that, and that I'll just call bullshit if I start hearing a whole lot like get in the kitchen kind of stuff, like, you know what I mean? It's just like, dude, like, where did you hear that? You know what I mean? Like, because at some point you said something like that, somebody laughed, and you thought it was cool, and you kind of continued on with the edgy stuff, but it's one of those things where maybe you're not around people that are just going to be like, dude, that's not cool. Like, what the hell? You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, like you are going to encounter people that are going to be like, well, who are you as a male to say something about, to make a point like that. There's also a different painting over here. Where did she go? There she is. She's behind me. There's also this painting over here, which is my kind of Handmaid's Tale with a bunch of skulls on the row, and you guys can't read it because it's backwards, but on the back of the canvas it says, "Our sisters deserve better." And stuff like that. Like I have encountered a couple people that are just kind of like, what is that, like, or somebody will say something like, well, why aren't you so, passionate about like men's rights advocacy kind of stuff like that. And there are different topics. Like there are kind of issues that men face. There are issues that women face. And I actually do tackle those subjects. I do tackle the subjects of kind of like this kind of Rambo style masculinity. I don't want to call it toxic masculinity because that's kind of got this whole connotation, but I wouldn't disagree with it, I just don't choose to call it that. But I think a lot of those things that we kind of grew up with were kind of, that's how we perceived what men were. Men didn't cry, men didn't talk about their feelings, don't be a bitch, kind of stuff like that. And being Veterans Day, suicide is one of the main things that a lot of veterans deal with, and I think it's kind of part of that. I think there's a kind of machismo kind of, there is a level of toxic masculinity that also is involved with the service, and this kind of tough it up, suck it up kind of thing, and a lot of people, like the human mind, we and I say this respectfully, but we all are working with the brains of a monkey. You know what I mean? Like we are dealing with, we have these tiny little brains that are built for picking berries, and they're not built for this. They're not built for the phones. They're not built for the cars. They're not built for the cities. They're not built for constant this, that, these different things just kind of bum rushing you. Advertising, propaganda, marketing, all of these things is not what our brains were made for, and we're just kind of handling them as best as we can. In my case, this is kind of how I handle it, but
And I'll take it further. It's a strategy. Like that isn't by accident.
Yeah.
That is
it's
orchestrated. That is intentional.
It benefits the system as a whole. And
Yeah.
I think to an extent, like for example, we are having this conversation through a phone screen, and I obviously am on social media, art, the kind of perception of an artist and kind of how art works has changed a lot in the last 20 years, I'll say. It used to kind of be this whole gallery type thing, and then with social media, luckily, it's luckily things are different now, and you can kind of you no longer need that gallery representation to be able to just showcase your work, talk about your work, and then there's places like this, there's spaces like this, that you guys kind of curate and create and allow artists to kind of come in and artists and creatives to kind of share their voices. And thank you guys for that. And thank you, Ghosty. I appreciate the love.
Zer0, that's part of the mission, right? That's part of,
Right.
like, the idea is, we always say this, we're a bunch of individuals that have agreed to work together on some stuff. And what that
Right.
means is it allows us to compete with those individuals or entities that have HR departments and lawyers
Right.
and teams of people that work on various projects as they come along.
Right.
Because we work cooperatively and because we help each other out where we're able and because we try to lift everybody, it makes it easier for all of us to compete with those larger entities. Like
Right.
you pointed out earlier, it's kind of like I used to do social work, right? I used to write training programs for folks with a variety of needs. And they may have had one or two people in Washington advocating for them because they're not rich. They don't have a lot of money. And lobbying is about money. So you know who does have a whole bunch of lobbyists and people helping write laws in DC? The ones that have all the money and the lawyers and the whatevers, and they're the ones that write the laws. So, for example, a lot of the copyright laws, artists that make fan art are always in jeopardy, right? They're always in jeopardy of their art being pulled or getting sued or whatever.
Definitely.
I had to make sure that the headstocks on my guitars didn't look like anybody else's, so that they had to be a certain amount of percentage different than everybody else's. Otherwise you get sued. So I think another thing that it isn't just your art, it's that it's you as a person and the way you choose to deploy your art. I think it has a much bigger impact because it addresses the good and the bad. Right. If you only pick one side and only dealt with that, then you wouldn't have as much credibility in a lot of ways, right? In that world. But you're able to point out, like you just did a minute ago. Hey, look, men do face some issues. We can't ignore that. That's a reality. Men do face issues in the society that we live in. However, women, minorities, the LGBTQ community, all of those folks face a whole lot more than the men do most of the time on whole. So your advocacy for the way men treat women, the way men treat each other in a culture, I'm from the South, you are from Mexico. Both, you could say, are cultures that are misogynistic, right? Have a lot of male ego going on in them.
Absolutely.
So, at any rate, I don't know that there's much you can say to that rambling commentary, but the point is that
I would like to say something just
please.
To your point, there is, like, for me, for example, like I am a proud Mexican, and I say that because the reason why I word it that way is because at this particular moment in time, even though you cannot see my face, you can see my skin. You can see my skin color, and that is enough to have you stopped, ask questions, and to me, that's all types of hella unconstitutional, but it doesn't seem to be stopping anybody, but
it is.
So, along with that, I do, I love my culture, but there are problems with my culture, and I try to address those as well. The kind of, the toxic masculinity thing is something that I see in America, but it's also something that that's prevalent in Mexico, and Hispanic communities. The kind of like obsession with kind of drinking and kind of getting drunk at not being able to do something without drinking or waking up and drinking, stuff like that. And to an extent, there's stereotypes, but also on the other side, most stereotypes generally have some type of, it's an exaggeration of a smaller thing,
Yep.
but it is something that that's there in my culture, and I think it's important for me to kind of call that shit out too. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
not gonna sit here and just kind of I've also had some people kind of throw some criticism at me for like, oh, do you think you're superior because you're Mexican or you're brown? And I'm like, absolutely, I don't. I think we're all equal. That's the thing, is that I think I'm equal to you, and I think Ash is equal to Chad, and as just as human beings. The second anybody starts to say I'm superior is when I have a problem.
But see, that's a trap, though, right? That's a trap,
Right.
because you weren't acting superior to anybody. It's a psychological warfare. It's a way to try to diminish, in one hand, what you're saying, but also to discredit the broader concept. And,
For sure.
And you are really adept at sidestepping that trap.
Thank you. And you know what? The
Well,
thing I love about being an artist too is that when I do art events, I get to have a lot of conversations with people that I think generally outside of kind of the pretense of art and kind of having a discussion this way, it might be somebody that's over there cussing me out on Facebook. You know what I mean? It might be somebody that's just like, fuck this, whatever. Like,
Right.
It could be somebody like that, but in person, there's a whole different thing. And in person, people seem to be a lot more willing to just kind of be like, okay, so what's that about? You know what I mean? Like, what are you trying to say with that? And 9 times out of 10, you're able to really walk away from a conversation. Even it could be somebody, that I online would probably just be going back and forth with. I kind of choose to not do that anymore. I'm just kind of like, I'm,
we don't do that.
Some people love doing that, and I'm just like, I'm good. But what I'm trying to say is that, like when you're at art events, a lot of the times you're able to have a conversation with people. Art is kind of like this stepping stone to a conversation in a lot of it, in a lot of ways. And maybe you might, maybe a conversation like, just posting about the things that are going on Facebook, somebody will just see that as a rant. But if you paint something and, even more so if it's a cool painting, and it has something to say, people seem to be genuinely more inclined to actually have a conversation. And maybe they'll walk away from the conversation exactly the way they walked in. You know what I mean? But occasionally people walk away with at least with a different perspective. And a lot of the times people walk away with like, you know what? I never looked at it that way. I guess I never thought of it from the perspective of you. I've only thought about the perspective from who I am. Just like me, I'm a Mexican male. But I am able to see, I can't really sit there and be like, oh, look at like historically, look at how women have been treated, and I can't sit there and be like, no, it totally didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like I can read. I passed history class. And I am just a generally curious person. I like to one of my kind of favorite like pastimes and something I do while I'm painting is I'll go back and kind of look at historical events that I remember learning about in school, or maybe something like the Waco incident, and I have kind of a perception of what I believe was the situation, and I'll kind of go and look into it. And kind of as an adult, not as a teenager, not as a 12-year-old, not as a, as an adult, I can go look at it and kind of see what the situation was. And a lot of the times I walk away from that thinking, you know what, that's not exactly how I remembered it. That's not how I remember the things kind of being. I try to be careful with my words, and I try to kind of. Articulate myself well, but it's not the way that I remember it being fed to me.
Yep.
And I think a lot of that is kind of why I also choose to kind of document what I see happening around me, is because I want to kind of, when I'm dead, when I'm gone, I want that to at least be kind of a reminder of like, even if everything says like, no, it was all sunshine, it was all sunshine. I want my art to be there and be like, no, there was fires. I don't care what they tell you. I was there and I saw the fires. If they choose to leave those out of the history books, if they choose to kind of pretend like it didn't happen, at least my art can, and I don't think that it's going to like survive hundreds of years or anything like that. I have no delusions of that, but I think to me it's important to at least make it. You know what I mean? To at least create it, and whatever happens to it is completely out of my control when I'm gone. Whether it ends up in the trash or a museum, is completely out of my control once I'm gone from here. But while I'm here, I do want to create. I do want to express myself, and I do want to just speak up against the things that I see happening. If I see something happening, it doesn't have to happen to somebody who's brown skinned. It doesn't have to happen to and I think that's kind of the thing a lot of people don't get is that like I remember reading about like Japanese internment and thinking like that's such a terrible thing. You know what I mean? And that's one of those things that like there's this kind of thing that I remember back in school is kind of learning about. I don't want to say the word because I'm pretty sure it's gonna trigger some stuff, but kind of the people who believe their race is superior,
the Germans who started World War II.
Correct. I remember kind of reading about that and learning about that in history class, and I could have sworn I remember everybody in my classroom being like, if I saw that happening, I would do something about it. I would at least say something about it. I couldn't just pretend like that's terrible. And
now those
like,
people are bitching because you have a commentary on the nation.
I feel like to an extent, and I don't want to kind of I don't want to kind of blow up the situation or anything, but I do believe that to an extent we're seeing a lot of that kind of repeat itself, and a lot of those same people just kind of staying quiet,
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing, Zer0. You mentioned 100%. It earlier. That's why I always mention teams of lawyers and PR people, because what comes with that is advertising. And you know what advertisers have? Psychologists on staff who are able to identify. That's why everything has a jingle. That's why everything is done a certain way. A lot of music follows the same structure. Right.
Right.
And we are inundated with advertising. Right, so it's okay for them to use it against us.
Propaganda,
right? We're inundated with advertising and propaganda from the government, and advertising and propaganda from big giant corporations. BP loves to tell me how much they care about the Gulf every time they dump oil in it. Right? You know what I'm saying? Well, if you gave a shit about it, you'd quit dumping oil in it. But so
word.
I feel like the commentary on the piece of art that you have that says "obey" across it. I'm not speaking for anybody else. Anybody that knows me knows that I have a healthy suspicion leaning towards dislike of police. And that's because of my experiences personally.
That was the politest way I've ever heard.
I have never had so much as a speeding ticket. And I've had some pretty bad experiences with police. And I also have had the experience that I just came to the conclusion, why would you call in an overarmed, undertrained person to an already volatile situation? Because in my experience, it never went well. They never came and helped. They never showed up and made things better. So a lot of people don't like that or don't understand that. Oh, man, you were in the military and you all this and that. Well, the truth is, what I don't like is people being treated poorly, and I don't like governments being able to lock people up for stupid shit.
And so, I think there's a lot of I think there's a lot of veterans that when you look at a lot of the protests, you generally will find it might be I'll be honest, and it's generally a smaller group, but you will generally find a group of veterans that are there that are like, this is not what I served for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and this is they may be fewer, but they are very vocal and very, they're, and I think that's not a, I think a lot of people have this kind of, again, with the veterans thing, I think a lot of people have this perception that veterans are just, American flag across the, on the Ford F-150, just outside of the house, and everything's, red, white, and blue, everything. But a lot of people, like I said, with the American Nightmare painting, a lot of people are now realizing that a lot of these kind of institutions and even like branches of government, even branches of the military, they may be disillusioned with the way the veterans are treated. They may be disillusioned with the kind of the way the pitch that was sold to you at the moment of recruitment versus the actual reality of veterans benefits and kind of how things like that are actually handled, or not handled for that matter.
Well, I think another place where veterans step over the line is just because they're a veteran, they think their word is more important than somebody else's. Just there are veterans out there that think that just because they're a veteran, somehow that means that they should their word carries more weight. And here's the reality: the oath that they swore was to the Constitution and the people. So the very fact that they're putting themselves over somebody tells me everything I need to know before the conversation even starts.
Right. It lets you know where people are as a human, like just as an individual, how you're already kind of starting off with this, like, I view myself as higher than you, and typically for me, that's kind of already like a raised eyebrow type of thing where I'm just like, yeah, I don't think we're probably going to get along very well.
Right. Well, it's I've known guys that, served in the Air Force in the 80s in Arizona. They got high every day, and there were beer vending machines in their dormitories. And now, all these years later, suddenly every piece of apparel they have on tells you that they're a veteran, and suddenly every word they say is supposed to carry more weight. And I'm kind of like, Actually, you were serving the people that you were condescending to right now.
Right. And I think it's a whole thing. Like I said, it's a matter of kind of perception. How people kind of perceive things, and like I think at some point for me, I kind of realized that like perception is very important. And you have to be able to kind of step back a bit. You know what I mean? And just kind of be like, am I viewing this as an individual, or am I viewing this just kind of like, is this what I believe because this is what I've been taught, what I was kind of told things were, or is this what I actually believe because I've through my life experiences, I personally, when I was younger, had a lot of beliefs that I think were just kind of inherited. Like I'll give, like, for example, like religion. I think it was kind of something that was culturally just inherited. Like I said, I'm Mexican. My family's Catholic. I grew up Catholic, and that's kind of something that typically, if you're Mexican, you're also Catholic.
Yes.
It's a cultural connect. And I think for me, it was one of those things where you kind of start to like question things, and along with questioning things, I think being I think skepticism and questioning things is a very healthy and natural part of living and existing. Questioning things. I think you should question everything. I think you should question everything with your feet on the ground. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
And just I have this painting. I wish I could show it to you guys. But I did this painting called "I Did My Research on YouTube," and it was kind of this kind of character, like humanoid type thing with a bunch of different connecting dots that it's like connecting shapes that don't match. You know what I mean? Kind of like if you were to take a little like which one of these shapes, like which one of these is different? It's like square, triangle, circle, burrito. You know what I mean? It's like obviously burrito is different. The burrito is the one that doesn't fit here, but somebody might be like, the circle, because the triangle has corners and the square has corners, and you're just like, wait, what? Like, no, they're shapes. This is the burrito's food. It's a separate, you know what I mean? But to some people, things don't click that way. You know what I mean? And
Right.
and it's interesting to me, I think, to kind of explore, how people, you know, I how people connect dots. And sometimes you can kind of see somebody's the numbers above their head. You know what I mean? When you're just kind of like, that math is wrong.
Yes.
Um,
Well,
but
there's this interesting dynamic. Your brain is designed to take new information and use the information that you already have. So it's trying to take new information
right,
and fit it into your already knowledge. So
right, right,
if you were raised racist or misogynistic or
right.
bigoted or whatever, you have to almost go through extra steps to get out of that default, because that's literally the default setting for your brain. Because
And
that's
it's not easy. It's not easy to do that.
it's
But
work.
it's kind of like, if you want to have this like amazing physique, it's not going to be easy to get like shredded, or to get like, 6-pack abs, or have this
Like
kind of
Chad.
dream. Yeah, absolutely. Just straight up. But
Zero effort, man. You
no,
better.
it's gonna take work. And but if you want to have that kind of body
That's
for
right.
yourself, you'll do the work to get to that. And I think, a lot of people think of like physically, but I think mentally is a whole other thing, where it's like, if you want to kind of change the way you perceive things, if you kind of want to change the way you think, there's a lot of work that you can do there too. It's not easy, but it's, at the end of the day, it's to your benefit to do that, or to not do that.
Yes,
Uh,
100%.
yeah, no, definitely.
How, how do people get in touch with you? Or let me rephrase that. Do you do commissions, or how do people get your work? Make sure we get all the details on
Absolutely.
that kind of thing too. We're going to repeat that
Okay.
too.
I'll show you. I'll show you one of the kind of well, actually, I'll show you. I'll show you guys both. So this is kind of like my card. No, it's not really a card, but it's kind of like a little thing that I leave at local businesses for mural stuff. So you can find me on obviously I'm on TikTok. I'm here. I'm sure there's probably something you can click. I'm also on Instagram. Project Zero Art. It's Project Zero Art on everything. I'm on
And the
TikTok.
O in zero
Yeah,
is actually a zero.
it's zero.
ZER0, the
Yes,
number.
the number 0. I made it complicated a long time ago, but I'm a stand on business with that. You know what I mean?
So
Like, I stick to
when
it.
you type it in, what we're saying is you type in Project Zero, and when you spell out zero is
Right.
ZER, and then the number
The number
zero,
0. Yeah.
and then art. Yes,
Right.
Project Zero Art.
Yeah. So I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I have an Etsy shop as well. I do commissions. At the moment, I'm kind of like super swamped with just kind of like everything for the holidays, but I do commissions. I haven't really done much of them, but it's just because like over the last 2 years, especially, I've kind of pivoted a lot to mural work. And it's kind of a, being a full-time artist is like I tell people, like, I didn't trade one job for another job. I traded one job for like 7 other jobs.
Right.
I have to be an
Yes.
artist. I have to respond to the messages. I have to kind of drive out to kind of check out gigs. I have to, ship orders. I have to run the accounting stuff. I have to do all of that.
Taxes.
Right. Jesus.
All of it.
But I do want to show you guys real quick my kind of mural book. It's probably not like the
Yes.
best way to show you guys my work, but yeah, you guys. Most of these are, you can see like videos of me kind of making them on my page. But these are just kind of different examples of like different murals I've done. I know they're backwards, so they're
Wow,
probably
man.
not.
Slow down, Zero. Slow down, Zero. Give them time to digest them, man.
Right. Well, what's crazy is like I started doing murals in 2023, and I
That's
bought this
cool.
book where I was gonna put as I was doing them, I was kind of putting them, I finished one, I would take a picture, put it in the book. It's gotten to the point where my book's not even like up to date now, but it's like, I'm like, whenever I get a day off, I'll catch it up. And I have not really had a chance to, I'm basically booked until December 1st at least. And I've given that date out to like 4 different people already. So, and as I've been sitting here, I've been getting messages too. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's
Right
December
on.
3rd now,
Heard that.
a couple different mural things that I've done. I did this really huge skeleton.
Oh,
for,
that's dope.
Yeah, that I don't know if you guys can see it right there, but that's the door. So it's like this big skeleton guy. It was for a coffee pop-up boutique in Arlington, and this is what the full mural looked like. It's this big skeleton guy,
That's awesome.
and he's
That's
holding a
dope.
cup of coffee that's kind of dripping like blood from the sky, and he's got it's got an IV drip going from the coffee all the way
That's
to
what
his
it
head.
is.
It's
Man,
pretty
that's
trippy.
dope.
It's a pretty trippy mural, but yeah, a lot of other kind of murals here across DFW. So yeah, my book's actually gotten pretty full. In the last 2 years, I've managed to keep myself pretty busy, and see, I even do like religious stuff. I'm not like with mural work, it's just kind of whatever you're trying to do. Signages,
Yeah.
different
Man,
signs.
I spent 3 months restoring a baptismal for a local church because they asked me to do it, and it was an antique, and I was an antique restorer. So hey, man,
Not-
I get it.
Yeah, no, I don't see. For me, I don't have a problem with religion. It's not the people that I have the problem with. It's like right now, there's that kind of whole TikTok thing going around with like that girl that called a bunch of churches to see if they would donate some baby formula to her. That's the problem for me. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, if it really were, I've read the Bible. I used to go to, I was raised Catholic. I was raised Catholic, and as a teenager, I went to a Baptist church. I went to a local Baptist church, and there was a lady that would pick me up and take me to Sunday school named Mrs. West. And in my opinion, Mrs. West was the epitome of Christianity. Like, she was a perfect representation of whenever you think of what a Christian should be, that was Mr. and Mrs. West to me. And because of that, there will always be this kind of soft spot for it's like I no matter how terrible some people may be, I know that there are some people that legitimately have genuinely good hearts,
Right.
It's when the money gets involved, and it's when it starts to get ugly at
I'm
that
pretty
point,
I'm pretty sure Jesus was all about feeding people. I mean, it's
Oh, yeah.
kind of
Yeah,
right
yeah.
up front. He was pretty up front
No.
about that. I don't need to quote you a bunch of
That was a pretty
scripture.
important part.
I could,
Oh, no.
I could, but I don't need to because everybody knows about the fishes and the loaves, right? I mean,
I tell people sometimes, like I consider myself agnostic. I am not a particularly religious person. There's also a misconception that some people have about me because of this, that they think that I must be like a Satanist or something like that. I
Chad,
really
Chad's our
don't.
Satanist.
I would be lying to you if I told you that I haven't looked into it, just like I have every other religion, just because I'm genuinely curious about religion and people's beliefs. But
Yes.
along with that, I have read the Bible, and I have read I don't consider myself a Christian. I consider myself agnostic, but I do consider myself a follower of the teachings of Christ. I think there's a very big difference between being a Christian and being somebody the same way that, like, for example, following the teachings of the Buddha or the teachings of Muhammad. I don't necessarily feel like I have to be of that religion to kind of find things that I agree with, find things that I, that I'm like, that's a good kind of way to go about life. And, from everything that I've read in the Bible, Christ was I think a lot of people would have a problem with Christ if he were here now with the Facebook page. They'd be like, "Oh man, you this and that," But
Yeah.
from everything I've read, and from everything I remember, oh yeah. And it's funny too because I
Telling
just did some
people to
Christmas
be
windows.
nice and feed people.
Oh yeah,
He's got a lot of nerve.
for sure. And it's interesting because there's like I was saying, I did some Christmas windows recently, and every time I do Christmas windows, I always ask people like, what color would you like your Santa to be? And it's funny because almost every time I ask them, there's this look of confusion on their face where they're like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like, do you want your Santa to be white? Do you want him to be brown? Do you want him to be black? What skin color would you like your Santa to be?" And it's the first time they've thought about it, and I've literally seen people go, "Well, like me," and it's like, you got it, like, you know what I mean? Like it's a small thing, but I think it goes a long way, and with Christ, like it's interesting because like you're right, like a brown man from the Middle East, is not typically, it could definitely be somebody that could be stalked just by the color of their skin, and even worse if you start adding all these, Christian values that he shared,
Look, most Americans think he was a blue-eyed white guy, man. I'll just be straight up with you. Most Americans think he was a blue-eyed white guy. And when you say something like, well, why would a dude born in the Middle East 2,000 years ago be white? They get confused and start drooling on themselves. So
it's that perception thing again. You know what I mean?
That perception, yes.
The things you've been kind of taught, and the kind of imagery and iconography and stuff like that,
Right. Which circles back around as to why it's so important that you're doing what you do, because you highlight a lot of that and get that ball rolling, get people thinking about things like that, right? The way, like, I grew up around some people that were really good people, and I grew up around some people that weren't very good people.
Oh, for sure.
And you learn from both, right? As a kid, you learn from both, and then you gotta, like you were saying, you gotta unlearn some things.
Definitely.
But in order for that to happen, you have to at least be willing to think critically. You have to at least be willing to look at those institutions you've been told are perfect and realize that they're not. It isn't. It was never perfect. The whole point is to try to strive towards a perfect union, right? But it isn't.
Right.
It never was perfect. Like, it was literally built on slave labor. So the reality is if you want to better yourself, you have to be willing to push back against some of the things that you've been taught. If it's all just, my mama and daddy taught me this because my grandma and grandpa taught them that because their grandma and grandpa taught them that, then all you're doing is passing down generational ignorance, right? You're not actually getting anywhere.
And the thing that's interesting to me,
everything.
I don't have children,
everything.
I don't have children, and I don't plan on having children. And if you're ever curious about why, go watch Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which is an amazing movie. But that's a pretty good answer for why I choose not to have children. But I don't have anybody to kind of I've had a couple of people tell me, like, well, wouldn't you like to have somebody to kind of pass this ideology on to, and in a way, to me, I think like that's kind of why I create art. It's a way of, like, across a lot of people's homes, in different parts of, the US and even Europe. I have a couple of paintings in London. There's my children are there. And much like when I pass away, my paintings will still be there. And real quick, I kind of want to just show you guys a few, just because we haven't really had a chance to show a whole lot. I'll just kind of speed round them real quick.
No, man, no hurry. This is your show. You're in no hurry. Oh man,
is
that's
just kind
cool.
of Guy Fawkes. Like I said, I try to make them pretty self-explanatory.
What's
Down
what's
here,
I
that's
think
what's
I
up.
heard I think I
I
heard
think I heard a
a
shot.
oh man.
I think I heard a shot, and that's actually that's a lyric from one of my favorite Rage Against the Machine songs, "Wake Up." Um,
Yes.
I do kind of weave a lot of things like that in. So there's that one. Let's see what else is over here. I showed you guys the kind of Perseus and Medusa one. I did see somebody ask about the mask and why I wear the mask. And just briefly to kind of just recap that, it's just my expression, my artistic expression kind of goes beyond just kind of the canvas. I'm also, it's a part of my kind of identity. And there's actually like 7 different reasons I could give you, and I'll be honest, it kind of changes depending on who's asking. But it's also kind of like I'm a Mexican artist, and I want to make sure that people see this and they're like, this is not how I normally see Mexicans. You know what I mean? Like, this is if you were to say like, hey, draw me a picture of a Mexican, it would probably never be this. You know what I mean? I think people would be like, oh, it's a sombrero and a poncho and some bullshit. You know what I mean? But it's like, no, the reality is we're all unique. We're all individuals. Some of us are. This might be the kind of like later, kind of more, extreme interpretations of individuality, I suppose. But it's how I express myself, and it's I live in Texas. I'm a Mexican in Texas. I cannot hide this fact that my skin is brown. I wouldn't dare try to. You know what I mean? But it's a part of kind of showing people that all Latinos aren't the same, that all Hispanics, all Mexicans aren't the same, and it's a part of kind of my individual expression. But in the meantime, I can kind of show you guys a few more paintings. Here's one of my favorite ones.
Oh man, that's cool.
This is probably I'll explain this one real quick. This one is called Beside You in Time. And it is probably my favorite painting. I think this is probably like the best if I had to pick one painting to show you to explain what Project Zero is, it would be this one. I think this is like a great representation of kind of like my style. I like to put a lot of detail into my work. I like to draw a lot, and this is a kind of plague doctor guy that's just kind of floating through space, and the kind of it's kind of like this big kind of explosion happening with these different little glitch boxes represent just different things happening. So there's just like a million things happening around you, and you're just some weird little thing floating on a rock. You know what I mean? And like,
that's awesome.
really insignificant to the larger scale of humanity. The quote over here is in Spanish. It says "No pues está cabrón," and that kind of translates to like, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, whenever somebody tells you like, oh man, I got laid off, it's kind of like there's not a direct translation to it, but it's kind of like if somebody were to tell you like, man, I lost my job today, like you would tell them like, no pues está cabrón, like shit's tricky. It is what it is. It'd be like that sometimes, stuff like that. And that's kind of my kind of and it does have these kind of like reflective glass glitch boxes as well.
Yeah.
It's probably the best representation of me, just kind of like my art, just kind of this unusual little thing floating around and trying to make sense of the world, which brings me back to Frankenstein. Kind of just none of us really chose to be here. None of us really made the choice. Somebody chose either for us or we just happened to be born. But nobody who's alive actually had any say in like, yeah, I would like to be born as a male as a Mexican male in Mexico and have anxiety and like, sign me up. That sounds like a great, you know what I mean? Like, sounds like a good time. Nobody really got to choose that. But you kind of play the cards you're dealt, and you make the best of it. And to me, in a way, this is me making the best out of it. And this is kind of being myself as authentically as I can, is my way of kind of fighting back. It's, to me, this is kind of a form of counterculture. It's a form of peaceful protest, and it's a form of individual expression. So whenever people ask, like, what's up with this, that there's really like a bunch of different answers I could give you, and none of them are 100% right, and none of them are wrong either. You know what I mean? It really
Right.
is not just one thing. It's a wide kind of range of things.
Well, it's a mirror of the truth, and the truth isn't always one thing,
Right.
right? It isn't always that specific.
And this particular mask is a little bit. I kind of went into making this one. The other one was a bit more human, I suppose. It had it had a mouth and a nose, and it had a more traditional kind of human face structure, as opposed to this one that has kind of like this nose cavity, and even the eyes have these kind of like I don't even know what to call them. I just like to draw them. I know what I like, and I know what my character elements like, so I wouldn't even be able to tell you what these are, but it's kind of like tendons or something. And the mouth is very kind of like the way I kind of see it is it's a bit more primal. It's a bit more primitive, I suppose, and I think it's a better representation of Project Zero in its current state at in 2025, with everything going on around me. I feel. And then there's a lot of kind of sub layers you can choose to look into it that way, but I just felt like with this current iteration of my face, of my presentation, it retained the kind of end of broadcast colors, which also is kind of a throwback to like if you remember things ending, you know what I mean, like
Yes.
they didn't just
Dude.
oh yeah.
Okay.
And I think
Okay,
it's also one of
here's a
those things
silly
where-
fact. Oh. Every night when I was a little kid, when that broadcast would come on, like everything would stop. I don't know why, but it scared the shit out of me. I
Dude,
don't
me
know
too.
why.
That's part of why it's on here, is because like it was such an unnerving like thing. It just, I don't know.
Yes.
If you guys are ever curious, look up Local 58. It's kind of like this analog horror YouTube channel, and they have something kind of. There's a very like, if that creeped you out, you're gonna love that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It's I
What
think
was
it's
it called?
Local 58.
Local 50. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of
I'll
like
definitely
a
check that out.
pop TV station that does like programming, but it's like
Yeah.
programming. It kind of takes you across the ages of kind of like, let's say from like the 70s, 80s, 90s, but you see that kind of visual shift of how like TV looked in the 70s, how it looked in the 80s, how it looked in the 90s, and how
Yeah.
it looks like more modern times. But yeah, the kind of end of broadcasting, I am, because you can't see my face, you can't really gauge my age, and I think a lot of times people think I'm a lot younger than what I am, and I kind of like that because it makes me think of like Kiss, you know what I mean? Like when Gene Simmons is in the demon makeup, like you can't really tell that he's this old man, you know what I mean? Like he just looks like
Yeah.
looks like a guy with face paint on, but because of that, I think a lot of people see me and they're like, you must be like 20. Yeah, and I'm like, I'm not 20. I remember the end of broadcast. You know what I mean?
I'm not 20. I remember the end of the
no.
broadcast.
Add a little bit more to that. But that's the thing too, is that like
Yeah.
I think because I'm not 20, that's given me a good amount of life and to kind of like live through things. And I think when you're 18, you have this kind of view of the world based on just what you've been told. Really, you don't know anything about the world. You really don't. You haven't lived on your own. You haven't paid rent. You haven't paid taxes. You haven't you haven't done a lot of these kind of different things that a traditional adult has done. And I think once you've been an adult for a while, you know what I mean. It kind of changes, and once you meet more people than like your homeroom classroom, and you kind of meet people, and you might think like, oh, this group of people is this way, until you work with somebody. You know what I mean? Until you work with somebody, and you're like, you know what? I totally had them kind of labeled wrong, dude. I thought people like this were like that, and turns out they're not. They're actually pretty cool. You know what I mean? And like, I think that's kind of one of those things that leads to kind of, again, perception. It's a big kind of theme in a lot of my artwork. But yeah, the mask kind of helps with that, and I always keep the end of broadcast thing because, like I said, I am an elder millennial. I am not 19 or 20. I do have a lot of people that kind of tell me like, oh, you talk like a younger person, and I think I have a lot of people that I know that are my age and younger than me that I would consider boomers. And I don't ever want to be that. You know what I mean? I think boomer is a mentality, not an age. I know a lot of 20-year-old boomers that, it goes back to that whole like women belong in the kitchen type of mindset where it's just like, dude, chill. Like, whose podcast are you watching that's telling you this? I don't have this massive, like, huge following, but I am aware that there are people who see me, even if it's kind of on a, sometimes basis, even if it's kind of, maybe it's on a daily basis, they see my videos. And I am aware that there is a sense of responsibility to having, even if it's just even if it were only 10 people that see your work, that hear your voice, that hear what you have to say, I feel like there's a sense of responsibility to at least kind of be like an older brother, I suppose. That's kind of why I choose the word, elder millennial, because it's like guiding the younger ones, and in a way where it's just like, hey, let's not do that. Lately, a lot of what I've seen is kind of like the goth subculture and stuff like that. And just real quick, I just want to say something about that. I don't think you can be goth, and I don't think a conservative goth is a real thing. I think goth comes from a place of minorities,
Preach.
from the misfits, the outcasts, and I don't think you can be. That's like me. The way I see it is like I tell people like I don't get to be this individual, and I don't get to be this odd, and tell other people who they can be. It just doesn't make sense. The math doesn't math. You know what I mean? Like, I can't sit here and dress like this and tell you that you shouldn't dress a certain way, or that you shouldn't do this, or that you should only speak this way, or, you know what I mean? Like, so I just, because I get a lot of people that tell me, like, what is goth? And I'm like, look, goth can be an aesthetic, and goth can be a lifestyle. You know what I mean? You can choose to wear all black.
But it is not.
I can still be goth even if I'm wearing all pink. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's about being an individual and not kind of fitting into the mainstream, not conforming to what the world wants you to be, and just being you. Whether it's a little bit different than the mainstream, or whether it's totally different from the mainstream. But I don't think that, like I said, I don't buy the fact that conservative goths are not a thing. At least not as far as I'm concerned. I don't recognize that. We have no power here.
It's like a conservative punk. It's just that's an oxymoron.
It's not a thing.
That would be interesting.
It's
corporate punk.
It's singing outlaw country but loving the police. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's,
Right.
Oh God.
How does that work? Like,
They should listen to what Cash had to say and what what those guys, Waylon and Christopherson,
Oh, yeah.
and those fellas had to
Oh,
say
yeah.
about government.
Definitely.
Willie, they'd
Oh, yeah,
freak
for
out
sure.
if they heard that.
Oh yeah.
And it's just something, like I said, I just wanted to point that out just because, like, I do, like, I identify as Gothic, as,
Well,
it's
well,
to me, like I said,
good
it's more
going,
of a
Zer0.
lifestyle.
I think there was 7 conservative goths in here because I watched the number drop as you said that.
That's
Kindness is
hilarious.
punk rock. I can tell you that. I can tell you that, like, in a world where everybody is, hateful, I think being kind is probably one of the most metal things you can do. I don't give a shit what anybody else tells you.
That,
Being metal.
I think
and
I've
being
heard that from
soft.
somebody before.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Being kind is punk rock
Honky
for
can
sure.
be.
But yeah, like I think to me, like that's one of the most metal things you can do is just kind of be yourself, be kind to people.
Right.
If no matter how your life is, it probably would have been much better if people had been kind to you.
Yes.
Maybe people not being kind to you is why you feel this way or why you see these people as something. Maybe it's a bad interaction, maybe it's this. And I just
Right.
I just choose to be kind. You know what I mean? Like to others and to yourself as well. You know what I mean? Like honestly, like like we mentioned the whole male, toughness thing. Like I don't try to like you know what I mean? Like big strong. Like no, it's just I'm chill. Like I'm not a like probably not somebody to be messed with either. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I don't feel the need to project that. Like I'll be cool. Like when it comes down to doing something, then if something needs to be done, then you'll do that. But until then, it's like there's no reason to kind of walk around like shoulder bumping everybody and kind of acting like you're this big bad dude. Like you know. But yeah, just wanted to point that out. I'll show you guys a couple more paintings just because they're here. Here is Homegirl right here.
Oh,
That is cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, Marla from Fight Club. She's here. Myers is over here.
Nice.
Michael Myers. And like some of it is fan art. It's just stuff that like to me the fan art stuff kind of falls along the lines of things that I saw while I was here. You know what I mean? Like it's still kind of like for example, like somebody that was born in 1910 would never have seen Halloween.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Somebody probably born
no,
in
Ginn saw
19
Halloween.
No, I did not.
And somebody who's a lot younger probably won't care about something like let's say like X-Men, for example. That might be like too before their time. You know what I mean? Like at least the
Sure,
animated
that's cool
X-Men.
though.
So there's a couple of things. There's also this one. I call this one Latino Heat. It is the in case you're not familiar with this symbol, it is the Hecho en Mexico symbol. It is kind of like a sticker that is placed on all Mexican imports, kind of just to symbolize that things were made in Mexico. And I was made in Mexico. So
Right on.
that's kind of where that comes from. See what else is over here. There is my little bat guy over here. It's kind of
Oh, cool.
Nice.
little baby bat. Again, like I was saying, guiding the baby bats and guiding them in a good direction. Not guiding them into like if you don't listen to enough twin tribes or something, you're not goth. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to wear all black. You don't have to listen to like you don't have to listen to anything. You know what I mean? Like you could be. I listen to everything. I listen to all types of music. I listen to metal. I listen to Mexican music. I listen to rap. I listen to pop. I listen to everything. Like I tell people, to me, music and art is like food. I don't have, I love Mexican food. I love, chicken mole enchiladas are like my favorite. But man, I love me some Italian food. I love me some Chinese food. I love me some, some barbecue. I love me, you know what I mean? Like I could not just pick one type of food.
But wait, you're Mexican. You can't
I
eat all
know.
those kinds, right?
I know, right? I gotta stick to the brown beans and rice. But yeah, like you like it's that variety. You know what I mean? And there's also I did this one this year for Day of the Dead. I did this painting over here. I did two paintings for Day of the Dead. This one was the more traditional one. It's kind of primarily black and gray. There's some splash of color in it. There's a little bit of brown and kind of like the yellow from the marigolds. But I wanted to keep it mostly grayscale and kind of black and gray because I did another painting that that one was the more traditional one, and then I have one where it was kind of more in my like kind of dark surrealist style, which is this one over here. So this is kind of like a sugar skull.
Ooh.
So I wanted to do both, kind of something that's like a lot more closer to my personal dark surrealism style. It's this kind of humanoid, mechanical type of skull-infused person. And then I also wanted to have the kind of more traditional, elements of Day of the Dead. Let's see real quick what else is over here. There is, like I said, with the fan art, a lot of the times with fan art for me, I am careful about what I'm painting. It's usually not just fan art to me. Like, for example, Rorschach from Watchmen. I love that movie. It's a great graphic novel. It's not just about being a fan of graphic novels and comic books and stuff. I think there's a lot to be said for somebody who is kind of obsessed with concealing their face. Again, kind of these inspirations, and somebody who is willing to, risk it all for just the truth. If the truth will kind of burn something down, then it deserves to burn. Then there's also this one that is sold at. It is Chop Chop actually picked this one up. So this is kind of another day. This one at the bottom, it says "Se te está acabando el tiempo." It's supposed to say "Se te está acabando el tiempo." You're running out of time. But I kind of did not finish the time part to kind of indicate like running out of time halfway through. I have this kind of the fact that like I've told people before, as an artist, you don't retire, you die. Artists don't really. I've never seen an artist retire. I've just kind of seen them pass away. And typically when an artist passes away, they have a lot of unfinished work. And I don't think you can pick one single artist on their deathbed and ask them, like, did you feel like you got everything out that you wanted to get out? And I don't think you'll ever find somebody that'll say, like, yeah, no, I don't think I have anything else to say. You know what I mean? Like, there's not any paintings I want to finish. Yeah, there's this kind of, there's this... no matter when it comes, even if it comes when you're 105, there's probably still going to be unfinished work. There's still going to be, work that you never got to complete or things like that. So that's kind of what this one's about. It's a memento mori, kind of just to remind you, you are running out of time. And back to the whole kind of thing with that. Yes, you are running out of time, but it's not so much about like being super hyper focused on death. It's more about kind of making the time that you do have worthwhile. It doesn't mean that you have to go, become some CEO of some multi-billion-dollar company. Living a good life, being a good person, to me, I think is equally as rewarding. It's not always about the money, but we live in a world where bills got to get paid. You know what I mean? It's just the reality of, I wish I could just kind of create just for the simple sake of creating, but you do have to pay the light bill, the rent's due every month, here's this kind of Jason Voorhees thing. Jason is my favorite kind of slasher character, and again, somebody behind the mask. That's kind of why, like, I think for me it was kind of a no-brainer. There's also the kind of lucha influence. I'm a big wrestling fan. And,
Luchador. Did you know S.A. is a luchador?
Yeah. And there's Santo was one of the most like well-known Mexican wrestlers, and he was actually buried with his mask on. And that is something that I have expressly told family members and my loved ones that when I do pass, I don't necessarily want to be buried with this on, but I do want it going down with me. You know what I mean? I do want it there. I want it, like, if you could just put it in my hands and let me, go down with that. That is definitely something, and that's not just something I'm saying for a bit or for a thing. It's like I legitimately mean that with my entire being. Like, when you bury Juan, you're also gonna bury Zer0, and you can't bury Zer0 without his mask. I think when I die, it's also gonna be one of those things where a lot of people are gonna be like, I think a lot of people got to know Juan as a person, and I think a lot of, like, especially my family, I don't think they ever really got to know Zer0. And to me, it's kind of a shame because it's like I think the best way to get to know me is to get to know Zer0. I think a lot of them kind of see this and they're like, I don't know, man, my cousin's fucking weird. You know what I mean? I don't know what's going on with him.
Have you considered instead of being buried with it, like maybe just passing it off to a couple of your homies so they can show up here and there, like at art things, and really trip people
Act
out?
like they're you.
So I have like the.
You're like, yeah, he's buried with it.
I have different versions. This is the current one, but I do have like 5 different versions that came before this, and my brother has asked for them. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, when I die, like, show up. All you got to do is get you a little hooded thing, throw on a mask, and who the hell will know that it's not? You know what I mean? Like,
That's awesome.
just walk up there and just go up there, chant some Latin, and walk off. Give them no explanation. Like, don't got to tell them nothing.
Just go pass through the exhibit one time, maybe twice, and leave, and let everybody just wonder.
Pretty much, but then there's also this. There's this other painting over here too. There's this Norman Osborn coward painting. That's what it says across here. It says coward. It's kind of the whole Spider-Man thing, again, another masked character. The mask talking to Norman Osborn, calling him a coward for not trying to take over the world, and just kind of trying to be a chill dude, and the mask is like, wimp. You know what I mean? Like, you coward. For me, this is kind of a lot of my paintings are kind of like little Post-it notes to myself. I kind of painted this as a, when I started doing the murals more, I've spent less and less time in the studio because I spend more time out, essentially, I guess what you would call on the job site or in the field.
Right.
So my studio just kind of becomes a mess, and like, it's only when I get a break from doing these things that I can kind of come home, clean up the studio. Most of the time I'm just kind of running in, like, where did I leave that one thing? Grab this, get it in the car. And so yeah, it's kind of, like I said, they're kind of like little notes. There's also this, this is kind of a more recent one too. It's kind of, I don't know if you guys can really see that very well. It's, I was kind of just testing out, like, just experimenting with color a little bit. But it's this alien thing, and it's kind of, like I said, some of the stuff has kind of double meaning. This is kind of like the alien abduction thing, and it does kind of have to do a bit with going home. You know what I mean? As an illegal alien, I suppose. I'm legally here, but you know what I mean? Like, not all of my family is.
Right.
You know,
We love you no matter
like,
what.
like I said, kind of going back to that thing of like, you know, not feeling like, oh, because I'm in a better position that it's not a reality that my own family has to deal with, you know. I would
Right.
never dare see myself as like superior to my cousins because of my legal status. You know what I mean? Um,
Right.
and I just think it's one of those things where like I see people with that mentality and I'm just kind of like, you know, and to me that's why it's important that I present myself as a Mexican artist. You know what I mean? As a Latino artist, yo soy un artista mexicano. Yo soy un artista latino. Soy de Guanajuato, México. Y todo este tiempo, pues no estoy hablando mucho español, but I am fluent in both languages. You know, this is a bit more situational. I don't know how much of a conversation we can all have in Spanish. But if you kind of look at my content, especially on TikTok, I make it a point to either kind of speak in Spanish sometimes or kind of use Spanish audio because it's, I don't know, that representation is important to me.
Sure.
You know, I did get to see some representation growing up. And I just, you know, I don't know. I feel like I feel like personally, I know a lot of brown skinned people, Latinos and Mexicans that do not feel comfortable in their own skin, or are Latino and kind of like hide the fact that they're Latino. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. To me, like I said, it's not a superiority thing. It's just, you know, I'll show you another painting that I think kind of represents things a bit. Magneto. This it's mirrored, but it says Magneto was right. And I think stuff like this is kind of like I said, when I do fan art, it's typically not just for the lulz, you know what I mean? It's usually got a little bit of something drew me to that character, and that's kind of what I focus on. But yeah, with Magneto, it is very, you know, I don't think Magneto necessarily saw himself as superior to humans. I don't think he thought mutants were better, but I think when it came down to it, they were like, well, they won't leave us alone. You know what I mean? And if they're not going to leave us alone, then like, well, now that we're counting, we are better. You know what I mean? Like we are evolutionarily superior. So you know, there's kind of that peaceful protest thing, and then there's kind of the Dr. Martin Luther King way and the Malcolm X way, by any means necessary type of thing. And if you know anything about X-Men, where the kind of origins of those characters come from, Magneto is definitely a stand-in for Malcolm X, and the kind of by any means necessary mindset of that. And like I said, I see art as a kind of you know, as a form of peaceful protest, but again, there's also that kind of thing where it's just like, you know, if they're not just gonna let me be, I don't, you know what I mean? I can only peacefully resist for so long before it's just like, by any means necessary. But yeah, I just want to thank you guys for having me on and allowing me to just kind of rant and kind of espouse my propaganda of sorts, I suppose.
Oh man,
yeah.
we appreciate you. We appreciate you coming on, man. Super excited to have you on. Thank you for sharing your art with us, man. We appreciate it, and yourself and your thoughts. And I mean,
Thank you guys. If you guys have any questions, I totally would love to answer them. If there's anything you guys would like to know or anything like that, like feel free to ask.
right on. Chad, Ash, give you all a minute to do
Process.
your thing here. Yeah.
Well, I guess my thing would be, I think we're all, as artists, we're all canaries in the coal mine.
Right.
So we're the first ones to speak out when something's wrong.
For sure.
I think that's our duty.
Yes.
And I think that's what we need to do. And I think we're doing it. Well, most of us are doing it right now.
Right.
So I hope everybody out there speaks up, pipes up, and says what's going wrong.
Absolutely.
That's what I
And,
gotta
and
say.
and I think using your art, like for example, I see a lot of people that I I know that one of the quickest ways to get a following on TikTok and on social media as an artist is to just either paint pretty girls or paint anime characters or stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like those are the most kind of popular by the numbers type of thing.
I go like this.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
Turn the other way.
Definitely. But I think there's I would hate to die as an artist and never have said anything.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I'd hate to create art that's just simply pretty or for mass consumption.
Yeah.
Or for the general populace. I know that my art is not for everybody. And I would hate for it to be for everybody. You know what I mean? My art is for me first and foremost. It's for people like me, and it's for people that like to think a little bit more about what's going on. The people that are open minded to it. This a lot of people walk by my booth at art events, see this, and they're just kind of like, "What the hell?" It's not for them, and this is a good representation because if this is too much, the art's not going to be for you. You know what I mean?
Right.
It'd be different if I was painting like landscapes with rainbows and flowers, and it's like, oh well, this doesn't match the art, but like I think the art matches the presentation pretty well. But to your point, artists, being the canaries, like yeah, I think the second that we're not allowed to express ourselves, I think you should use your voice now while you can. I guess I'll put it that way. Before it's not an option anymore. You know what I mean? And it's important. People are seeing what we're creating. You know what I mean? People are seeing it. People are. I try to be as humble as possible, but there are a lot of conversations. There's a lot of messages that I've gotten from other artists, and I generally don't share them just because they're kind of a personal thing. But like, I have seen other artists that are like, "Hey, man, like." I saw your work and I started painting again. I hadn't painted in years, and like, seeing your work kind of inspired me. And I hate saying shit like that because it sounds like some very like, I don't like it. But I mean, I like the interaction. I don't like kind of the whole like patting yourself on the back is like some important thing. It's not about that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that like people are inspired by not my work necessarily, but by the work of artists. And
Absolutely.
maybe it might be a way that you can kind of have a discussion with somebody that you might not be able to had you just had it with plain words. You know what I mean? Maybe your artwork can get across to somebody. It might even change somebody's mind. It might, give them a different perspective, or it might even kind of inform them of something that they don't even know that's going on. You know what I mean? Like your artwork might be the first time that they're like, you know what? I didn't know that was happening. I didn't know that there was the situation or whatever. But yeah, I do think it's super important to use your artwork, use your voice, and like I said, there's that huge kind of underlining of while it's still an option. I'd hate for it to no longer be an option, and then like you realize, oh, you just painted Goku 50 times over and over and over and over for the Facebook or Instagram or TikTok likes, but you really had something to say, and you just never said it because that video was only going to get 10 likes, and you were more focused on the one that was going to get 1.5 million. My work's not for everybody. I really, some videos do better than others, obviously. But I'm not really concerned with the 1.5 million thing, as counterproductive as that sounds for an artist, because it really is. I kind of, in a way, I'm kind of working against my own interest here, by how I choose to go about my art, because I do know the things I do know that this is how a lot of videos work, and I do see pattern recognition. I see what works. You know what I mean? I see what works for others, but it's also kind of one of those things where it's just like, I don't know, man. I don't. For me, I don't think it's authentic. For me, I don't think it's genuine, and I value my artistic individuality and kind of the way that I choose to represent and present myself over. I'd rather it hit 30 people that feel it than for it to hit 100. 1.5 million that just saw it, thought it was, oh, it's Goku, cool, swipe. You know what I mean? Like, same thing with my paintings. I would much rather them go into a home that appreciates them for far less than to go into some random rich person's home that was like $1,200. I'll take it. You know what I mean? I'd rather sell it to somebody for 100 that's actually going to appreciate the work. And again, as a full-time artist, it's probably not the most productive way of thinking, but I think I'm not a plumber, I'm not an electrician, I'm an artist, and I think that there's a difference between your craft and your art, but yeah, man, I think it's super important for people to just kind of use their voice and express themselves, man. Whatever that is, whatever you got inside of you, get it out. Don't concern yourself too much with whether it's going to be popular, with whether it's going to get likes. A lot of the times people are seeing your stuff, they're just not hitting that like button for whatever reason that may be. TikTok has always been one of the most like supportive places. People like you guys, absolute random strangers that just kind of come across me and are super, super supportive. And I absolutely love that about the kind of like TikTok art community. Because it's funny because I can go to a different thing where it's more like, oh, it's actually people that I know in real life. And those are the people that it's like, oh, I saw this post got 100 views and 2 likes. You know what I mean? It's just like, what gives? I don't know, man. I ain't trying to like analyze all of that. I got paintings to paint and I got, a couple people to reach. But TikTok is such an interesting place because there's so many cool people and there is a genuine community, especially within the art community. There's like, I don't know, man. I love it. I love it. And that's kind of like, I've had a super, super long week. I'm kind of like, I've been running on E, but like, when Ginn hit me up about it, I was just like, I'm there, dude. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, you guys are nothing but love, and I'm like, I will definitely make time for this because to me it's important. You know what I mean? It's important to kind of to spend some time with you guys, to spend some time kind of just talking and kind of explaining, my work. I know this can kind of be a jarring thing, and maybe to an extent it requires some type of explanation. I typically kind of prefer to let the art do the explaining. I do have a lot of anxiety, which again is also a part of the presentation as well. This is a much easier way for me to talk. It wasn't the intention initially, but it actually did help quite a bit. So this version of me is able to speak, is able to kind of articulate myself a little bit better than maybe I could have, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe even more, because now I feel more comfortable. So I'm not kind of that, I mean, I don't know. I might watch this back and be like, holy shit, I really sat there and like kind of twiddled my thumbs the whole time and was kind of like this awkward kid. But I feel like it allows me to kind of express myself a little bit more beyond just kind of let me paint it and I want the work to speak for itself. Like, I think I understand that now, that like there does have to be a little title card or maybe a little bit of context to things, and I need to be able to kind of explain that a bit and kind of be more vocal about it, I suppose. But again, I just want to thank you guys so much for the opportunity, for having me, and for allowing me to just kind of poison the minds of the youth, I suppose.
Well, thank you for coming on, Zer0. We really appreciate you, man. The way we usually end the show is we have a song that was made for us by Black Country Guitars, and we'll play it. It's about 3 minutes long, and these guys either hang around or they leave. You're welcome to do whatever you like. Usually I'm showing art from the wall. Please follow Project Zer0 Art. Go catch him on all of the other platforms that he's on. Like I said before, I believe in this guy. I love what he does. I think he's a fantastic human being. And we have actually bought about 30 minutes of extra time for Chad's daughter. We usually wrap at 11 o'clock because that's when she goes to bed. So I know she is thrilled with us tonight. She knows it was a good show because Uncle Ginn went over.
She's like,
so, Zer0, thank you for coming, Zer0. We really appreciate having you here, man. Ash, man, do you have any final thoughts, buddy?
I'm good, dude.
You're good. Chad, you got any final thoughts, man?
Yep,
you good
keep
too?
It brief because, like you said, my kid, get with it. I would like to say that I've said that if you really want to know what was going on during an era, rather than reading a history book, look at the art.
Yep.
And I think that's really
100%.
fitting to a lot of things you said about leaving basically like a legacy. Because while the history books will be written by the winners, the art was made by the artists who are feeling the time and the place.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
that, and on a side note, before we bolt, you know how sometimes we associate people with other things or events or whatever. For some reason, I associate you with Rage Against the Machine. So the fact that you said that's your favorite, awesome.
I love it. I love it. Definitely love some Rage.
That's all I got, man. It's good to see you again, Zer0.
Likewise,
Zer0, do you have a favorite color, man?
It is black.
Black. Okay, this might not show up.
Let's see.
But
Black hearts
if y'all
and zeros.
could, please drop black hearts and zeros, the number 0. Black hearts and zeros in the chat. If we could get a couple screenshots so we can send those over to him. Do what y'all do, guys. I know it's going to take a second to find the black hearts and the 0. But that will happen. They will start dropping you black hearts and zeros in the chat here in just a second. And there we go. Look at that, y'all. Y'all are amazing. Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate y'all. There's that community that you were talking about, man. People are really excited to have you on Project Zer0 Art. And look, man, I just appreciate you, man. I appreciate you doing what you do. I know you take risk. I know you pay the price for it, criticism and such. So my hat's off to you, sir. Keep doing what you do. You have my personal phone number. You ever need anything, give me a ring. You ever want to come back through over here? Always happy to see you, man.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it.
Look at the chat, man. They blew you up. That's
you guys are the
amazing.
best.
So thank you, everybody. We're going to play it out. We're going to play it out now. We're going to leave Project Zer0. If you want to leave, man, you're welcome to leave. You can stay and answer questions in the chat, whatever. We just play music, show art, and these two do whatever. And I believe Ash has a show in 30 minutes. So in 30 minutes, Ash has to do another show. He will be on. Do you know yet if you will have Eve with you?
I'm not sure yet. We'll find out.
Okay.
Well, I'll be on Rain or Shine.
We're going to get Ash about 23 minutes of rest in between shows here. So, thank you, Zer0. Appreciate you, brother. Always good to see you, man.
Likewise. Thank you, guys.
And thank you to Black Country Guitar.
He carves the wood with a steady hand. He's got the magic, the master, the man. Ashman by his side with a joke or two. They're building dreams in a world of.
Get out of here, Ash.
Project where the soul takes flight. Chad's in the corner, keeps it all tight. MC Haley
Alright guys, thanks for the love. So have a great night. Time for one another. Thank you.
Take care, Zer0. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you guys. Have a great night.
You too, man.
Every note they build starts to sing. The Ginn project where the soul takes flight. Cat in the corner keeps it all tight. MC Haley Beth keeps the groove just right. The Ginn project guitars burn bright. Moan. Each fret a story, each chord a home. Haley's voice is the spark in the flame. Together they rise, they're changing the game. Like a river's moan, each fret a story, each chord a home. Haley's voice is a spark in the flame. Together they rise, they're changing the game.